it's a neat headline, a neat trick for the headline writers to call it the Brexit backlash. Is it true, John? Good morning.
Well, there is a Brexit backlash, but perhaps not necessarily simply the one that we're anticipating. I think we were widely anticipating that maybe the Conservatives would suffer a Brexit backlash, and that perhaps this would be particularly in evidence where Ukip were standing. Well, yes, Ukip certainly were doing better than they did in last year's local elections, though still not quite as well as in 2015. But we were discovering that when Ukip did well, Labour could suffer as well as the Conservatives. Meanwhile, what we were also discovering, however, is that both parties were well down on where they were 12 months ago, that both parties have lost significant support in the wake of the Brexit impasse. The truth is the opinion polls had been suggesting for some time that Labour's vote was also down as well as the Conservatives. They just weren't in agreement about how much. But the evidence of these local elections is that, frankly, the Brexit impasse has been pretty much as damaging to Labour as to the Conservatives. Now, it may be that, although you're quite right to point out that Labour lose ground more heavily in Leave voting areas in the north of England, frankly, Labour are also losing ground in Remain voting areas as well, just not quite so much. And again, the evidence in opinion polls is that Labour has indeed been losing ground amongst Remain and Leave voters. And the problem with fudge is that it can be a bit too sickly and end up satisfying nobody.
A decent night for the Lib Dems and some of the others. John, are we looking possibly, and I know this has been said before, but the start of the demise of the old two-party system?
Well, I think what we are registering is that the unexpected revival of the two-party system in 2017, when they suddenly won over 80% of the vote, their highest share since 1970, that doesn't seem to have survived for very long. The Liberal Demcrats, it's still not dramatic. They're still not as strong as they were in local elections before they entered the coalition in 2010. But, certainly even better than last year, and crucially showing signs of advancing in the places where they're actually able to convert votes into seats, places where they already had some strength, where they were starting off in second place. But the Greens also putting in one of their best performances ever in local elections, perhaps helped by the recent climate change things, but also, I think, frankly, taking votes off Labour. But maybe the most unexpected one, and perhaps an indication of the extent to which this was, and to some degree, an anti-politics, anti-establishment, a plague on all your house's mood, is the way in which the number of independent councillors has gone up very substantially. I think its gains now about 200, typically getting around 25% of the vote. If voters could take the chance through a credible local independent candidate to leave the party system behind entirely, they seem to have been extraordinarily ready to do so.
Lastly, we look forward now, well, at least on the calendar, to the European elections. What might happen then, and what might have happened had the Brexit Party or Change UK been in a position to field candidates last night?
Well, that, of course, is the interesting question. I mean, I think certainly, given that even in the absence of those two new kids on the block, we've seen a substantial fragmentation of the electorate and of the party system yesterday. This must suggest that unless something dramatic happens, we could see yet further fragmentation in the European elections. When, frankly, last night, many an upset Leave voter had nowhere to go. They couldn't vote for Ukip or Nigel Farage because they weren't on the ballot paper. They will be. But equally on the other side, the interesting question will be whether or not Change UK can pose a challenge. I mean, one kind of important caveat there, it's not obvious that the Liberal Demcrats' success was particularly based on the support of Remain voters. Certainly the party wasn't particularly advancing in Remain voting areas. They frankly were succeeding across the piece, and probably it was as much a protest vote as a pro-EU referendum vote. But then a party with the title Change UK, the independent group, we might have learned actually has perhaps chosen a rather useful name if it is also hoping to profit from the disenchantment with the two major parties.